South Staffordshire and Shropshire Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust is committed to combating stigma, discrimination and prejudice. The Trust's first value states that the people who use our services are at the centre of everything we do. This short film tells the real-life stories of 4 people who want their voices to be heard.
I was traumatised by events that happened in my childhood and beyond. The biggest difficulties really is one's own denial or one's own perception of what's going on. I was sexually abused by an old family member. When he stopped, another family member took over, and they were both members of loosely organised rings. I would be abducted on my way home from school and put back again before anybody knew I was gone. It doesn't take very long to abuse a child. Sometimes I remember, and that's when I start having problems, because I really don't want to remember. Anything can set me off. It can be a smell, it can be a colour, it can be just a feeling. It's been a lifelong journey trying to come to terms with it, and I will be doing that for the rest of my life. I had problems with alcohol, I had problems with food, I found difficulty making relationships, finishing things, finishing college, finishing a job, getting into a job, getting out of a job, and things really came to a head when I had my daughter. After I had her, I had what I suppose you might call a breakdown, and then I started to get some help for what had happened to me, and I'd started to realise what had happened to me. When I was in crisis last time, I was feeling bad. I'd seen my GP that week, I'd cried all over her, and she had referred me to the local crisis team. So she rang me up the thing and she said, "Do you think you can get through the weekend?" And I said, "Well, I don't think so." So they upgrade everything, and the crisis team kicks in, and that means that someone comes to your home. One person didn't think I was particularly bad enough to be referred. She actually said she felt it was an inappropriate referral. I was expecting my phone call the next day and didn't receive it. And what had happened is she hadn't actually put my name up on the board, so nobody knew to ring me, because she had made the unilateral decision without consulting me that, as she said, I wasn't walking into the woods with a piece of rope. I don't need sympathy. I've been living with this all of my life. I just need for the person who's putting themselves forward as someone who's presumably wanting to help me, as somebody who's going to be listening, absolutely listening to what I'm saying, and not trying to make it go away, because it's very, very uncomfortable. What has been the biggest stumbling block for me has been the lack of counselling, the lack of talking therapy available. All I needed was somebody to talk to with a little bit of drug support. I'm not against antidepressants, or I find them very helpful, but ultimately I've needed someone to talk to explain to me what has happened to me. If I go to my GP and say I need counselling, I get offered a 6-week slot, which I have to wait probably 3 months for, or the choice of being referred on to secondary services and waiting sometimes 6 months or longer. There doesn't seem to be any room for the in-betweeners, So a lot of the time I could have avoided going into crisis. I could have stayed in a job. I could have stayed in a relationship if I'd had that counselling support. Whereas what has happened is that I've gone critical because it's not there. And I believe there's a big reservoir of people who wouldn't be as bad as they are, who are costing the country a lot of money because they're allowed to slip through the net. I think what I'm saying is that Though I've come to realise that what I experienced was unusual. It's no wonder that I feel the way I do about the world.